Welcome. If you're tuning in, you want the real story, the key insights, without all the extra noise.
That's right.
And today, we're looking at a pretty fast-moving situation around Tesla's leadership. Is Elon Musk heading out as CEO, or is it all just, smoke and mirrors?
It's a really fascinating question. And to get into it, we're diving into these clashing stories. There's the Wall Street Journal report saying Tesla was looking for his successor.
Right.
But then, boom, these really quick, really strong denials from Musk himself and from the Tesla board, too.
Exactly. So our mission here is to cut through that noise. We'll use the WSJ piece, those denials, and crucially, some wider context from other reports, stuff about Tesla's recent performance and Musk's unique government job.
Yeah, unique is one word for it.
We just want to give you a clear picture of what seems to be actually happening here.
Okay, so to unpack this, maybe we should start with the thing that lit the fuse, that Wall Street Journal report. What did their sources actually claim?
Well, the main claim was pretty significant. The Journal reported that Tesla's board had supposedly approached executive search firms, multiple firms,
to actually start looking for a potential successor.
That was the implication, yeah, like a concrete step towards maybe changing leadership, not just whispers.
Okay, and what reasons did the report give? Why would the board suddenly allegedly be thinking about this?
It seemed to boil down to two main things, according to the Journal. First, investors getting nervous, worried about Musk's focus being split, because of his role heading up DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency.
Right, the Trump administration role.
Exactly. And second, just concerns about Tesla's numbers. They highlighted a big drop in profit, 71% year on year.
Wow, 71%.
Yeah. And revenue slipped, too, by 9% in the first quarter. That profit drop, that's not just a blip, is it? That signals something potentially bigger changing for Tesla.
No, definitely not. Those kinds of numbers always get attention, especially from investors. It sounds like the report was painting a picture of shaky confidence.
It was. And adding to that, the report mentioned these unnamed sources. They claimed there were tensions within the board.
Internal disagreements.
Apparently. And they also suggested Musk had this prolonged absence from Tesla's day-to-day, which was supposedly another factor driving the board to look at options.
Okay, so a narrative emerges. Anonymous sources, weak financials, a CEO stretched thin. But the reaction wasn't exactly subtle, was it?
Not at all. Elon Musk, he went straight to X, Twitter, as most still call it, and he just, exploded.
Oh, what did he say?
He called the Journal's report an extremely bad breach of ethics, and then deliberately false.
Yeah.
Pretty direct.
Okay. Yeah, that's unambiguous.
And he specifically pointed out that Tesla's board had already sent a denial before the article was even published.
Right, which raises its own questions. And the board itself, did they back him up publicly?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Tesla chair Robin Denholm put out a statement, very similar tone, called the report absolutely false. She also made sure to say the board has high confidence in Musk and talked about an exciting growth plan ahead. And interestingly, she confirmed Musk's point that they had told the media it was false before it came out.
Which does make you wonder, why run the story if the board officially denied it beforehand? What does that tell you about the Journal's confidence in their sources?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Trying to figure this out. Okay, so let's step back from the immediate he said, she said. Let's look at the bigger picture, starting with Tesla's performance. The WSJ wasn't dreaming up those financial concerns.
No, they weren't alone there. Other outlets have definitely been reporting on Tesla hitting a rough patch. It's not just the profit and revenue dips you mentioned.
What else?
Well, it's also the fact that 2024 saw their first annual sales decline in over a decade?
Right. For a company basically built on the idea of constant, rapid growth, that's a big shift in the narrative.
And you mentioned investor worries. Stock price is usually a good barometer for that. What's happened there?
Yeah, it's taken a hit. Reports show a pretty steep drop since the peak back in December 2024. One source said it went from around $480 down to maybe $222 a share by early April 25.
Ouch.
Another report highlighted a 33% drop just since President Trump's inauguration in January. So yeah, a lot of value wiped off.
And what are the likely reasons behind that beyond just the Q1 numbers? What's spooking the market?
It feels like a mix of things. Competition is a big one. Lots more EVs coming from China, from the U.S. makers too.
Sure, the market's getting crowded.
Definitely. And then there's the uncertainty around Musk himself. His focus, his time split between all his companies, plus this government job. We'll get more into that.
Right.
And his political stuff seems to be becoming a factor too.
Which leads us neatly into that very unusual situation. CEO of a huge public company and a senior official in the U.S. government at the same time.
Yeah, it's a really strange setup. Since January 2025, basically when Trump's second term kicked off, Musk's been running this Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE.
With the goal of cutting costs, right? Streamlining federal spending.
That's the idea. It sounds like, I don't know, trying to juggle flaming torches while riding a unicycle? A lot going on.
It certainly does, and it seems to have had a real financial impact, maybe even on him personally.
Reports suggest so. There was talk of his personal wealth dropping by something like $113 billion, mostly because of Tesla's stock price falling.
Wow. So his government role and Tesla's stock are visibly linked in that way?
It really underscores how tangled it all is. And it's not just about money, right? There's been public backlash to his political role.
There has. His work with the Trump administration, leading DOGE, it's definitely drawn criticism. And more than just criticism, actual protests against Tesla.
Like what?
Well, we've seen reports of vandalism, Tesla showrooms being targeted, charging stations too. It suggests some consumers are pretty unhappy with the association.
That reported 73% sales drop in Germany you mentioned earlier. That seems like it could be tied into this brand image issue, doesn't it?
It strongly suggests that, a drop that sharp, it's usually more than just market dynamics. It points towards maybe brand alienation because of the CEO's politics, something companies usually try hard to avoid.
Has Musk acknowledged this pressure, the strain it's causing?
He seems to have. On a recent Tesla earnings call, he actually used the word pain when talking about Tesla.
Really? Pain?
Yeah, and he said he planned to reduce his DOGE involvement starting in May so he could spend far more of my time back at Tesla. So it sounds like he sees the problem.
And President Trump has weighed in, too.
Yes, Trump's made comments publicly hinting that Musk wants to shift his focus back towards Tesla. You could see that as sort of paving the way for Musk to maybe step back a bit from DOGE to deal with the Tesla issues.
And analysts like those at Wedbush, they have a take on what needs to happen.
They do. Their view is basically that Musk needs to come out and very clearly say how he's going to balance DOGE and being Tesla's CEO, like a formal reassurance.
To calm the market.
Exactly. They think that kind of clear statement is needed to stop the negative story building around Tesla and rebuild some of that investor trust.
Okay, so pulling back again, beyond just is there a CEO search or not, there seem to be these deeper worries. One source even called it a governance nightmare. What's wrapped up in that term?
Well, governance nightmare probably points to this whole combination of risks, right? You've got the CEO with divided attention, potential conflicts between his company duties and his government role, plus a public persona that seems to be alienating some customers. It all creates instability, uncertainty for investors, for everyone involved with Tesla. A big part is that clash you mentioned, Musk's politics, maybe leaning more right, versus Tesla's traditional green image and customer base.
That German sales drop again, 73% in March 25. That really hits that point home.
It does. And it's not just politics. There are also critiques of his leadership style itself. Some find it, divisive. And then there are questions about Tesla's actual products, the Cybertruck delays and issues, more competition coming in with cheaper EVs. Is the strategy right?
And the company structure itself comes under the microscope in this kind of environment.
Absolutely. This idea of Tesla being a one-man band, so reliant on Musk personally, that gets questioned when things get tough. People start asking, where's the backup plan? Is there a clear turnaround strategy that doesn't just depend on Elon?
Though we should probably remember he's not literally the only person there. There are other senior people.
That's true. You've got Vaibhav Taneja, the CFO since August 23, and maybe more visibly, Tom Zhu. He's the senior VP of automotive.
And Zhu is seen as pretty key, right?
Very key. Often called Musk's right-hand man. Kind of the second in command, really. He oversees global production, sales, the gigafactories, a big operational role.
Okay. But even with people like Zhu and Taneja, the overwhelming feeling seems to be that Tesla's fate is still tied incredibly closely to Musk.
It does seem that way.
Which brings us back full circle to that original WSJ report. Despite the very strong denials, could there be something to it? The old no smoke without fire idea.
It's definitely plausible, isn't it? And maybe not a formal CEO search already in motion, like the report claimed. But could the board have been having internal conversations? Considering contingency plans.
Given the numbers, you mean?
Exactly. That big profit drop, the stock price falling so much, what was it? Market cap down from $1.5 trillion to $900 billion.
Yeah, huge numbers.
And slowing sales. Those are exactly the kinds of things that would make any board have serious discussions about the future, including leadership.
And just the sheer amount Musk has on his plate, it's undeniable. Leading SpaceX, XAI, Neuralink, and now DOGE on top of Tesla.
Precisely. I mean, how much can one person realistically juggle at that level? The board has a duty to think about the long-term sustainability of that kind of setup. It would almost be strange if they weren't considering it on some level.
And lastly, that impact of his public profile, his political statements on the brand, especially in key places like California or Germany or even China.
Yeah, that's critical. Boards usually want their CEOs focused on the business, not potentially turning off huge chunks of their customer base with political stuff. Those sales drops in places like Germany, they suggest his public image is having a real negative financial consequence for Tesla.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've got this report claiming a CEO search was happening. Then really strong denials from Musk and Tesla.
Right.
But this is all happening while Tesla faces real financial headwinds. And its CEO has this massive politically sensitive government job, which is causing waves with investors and the public.
Exactly. So was a formal search actually underway? We still don't know for sure. It's murky. But the reasons why someone might think a search could be happening, the falling profits, the stock drop, the questions about Musk's focus, those are absolutely real. They aren't speculation.
It really does feel like the reality is probably somewhere in that gray area between the Stark report and the absolute denials.
Yeah.
So thinking bigger picture now, what does this whole situation tell us about leading these giant influential companies today in this, very polarized world we're in?
Well, I think it shines a really bright, maybe uncomfortable light on just how complicated things get when a CEO's personal brand, their politics, their outside activities become inseparable from the company itself, especially a company like Tesla.
Yeah.
It forces you to ask some fundamental questions about corporate governance, about what stakeholders should expect, about whether these highly personalized, almost cult of personality leadership models are sustainable long-term, especially when facing headwinds and controversy. It definitely leaves you with a lot to think about regarding Tesla's path forward and that whole messy intersection of big business, politics, and technology today.